So Hyman Roth is looking at Michael Corleone, who's standing there with a stoic face, and you can see as he's talking, he's getting angry because he's talking about the killing of Mo Green from Godfather I when he gets shot in the eye as he's getting a massage. And he's saying, this was my friend, and that was allegedly the Bugsy Siegel character. This is my friend who got killed, who got shot in the eye, a brilliant guy, my friend, I knew him all my life. He said, but when it happened, I didn't ask, I didn't try to find out who did it because I knew it was business. He said, and this is the life that we chose, so I didn't go any further. And you can see the tenseness building up in him and the anger because he knew Michael orchestrated it. But it was a dynamic scene. Hey everyone, welcome to another sit down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody's doing well, and today is Mob Movie Monday, and this might be a giveaway as to what the movie is today, and if it's not, it's Godfather II. Now let me tell you why I'm reviewing that. We did a poll in the community section of our YouTube, I think it's a community section. Did you want Godfather II or Once Upon a Time in America? And Godfather II came out on top by a wide margin. So we're going to review that today. I've already done Godfather I. And let me explain this before we're going to go any further. Last week I did a promotion with a company called Shoe Palace, The Shoe Palace. They have about 180 retail outlets throughout the country, a huge online presence. And they contacted me because they do these various promotions, actually me and my youngest daughter, Julia. And they said they're doing a Godfather promotion. They have a licensing agreement with Paramount Studios, you know, the owner of that movie series. And we'd like you and your daughter to come in for a photo shoot and an interview and so on and so forth. Now, I had never really heard of Shoe Palace at that point, but all my kids did, my wife did, everybody knows it, except me, right? So we did this photo shoot, did this interview, and I gotta tell you, you know, great clothing. I mean, everything from this jacket, which, by the way, has a Don Corleone, you know, image on the back. They gave me this shirt, which says the Don, you know, and the Godfather underneath, and again, an image in the back. I don't consider myself to be the Don. That's the shirt. They just gave it to me, so I'm wearing it for this special day. And they got some, a great, you know, hoodie. I love the one saying. They have all these Godfather sayings on all the garments. And the hoodie says, it's not personal, it's business. And so I took that one. It's black, you know, it's really cool. And then they got some, you know, some shorts and just stylish stuff for women, guys, everything else. So they're going to be rolling out this promotion fairly soon. You'll see it all over online on all those social media platforms. I'll be putting it on mine. And I got to tell you, the clothing is really priced right. I really mean that. And for those of you that are believers like me, this is a company owned by Christian brothers. And I had some really good dialogue with one of the brothers, one of the owners. So it was a pleasure to do it, you know, another fortunate break in my life that I get called to do things like this, so I enjoyed it, and I hope you like the clothing and you support it. Now, let me make it clear, I don't earn from it. I am not a partner. I have no licensing agreement with them. All we did was the photo shoot to help them promote it, and they've done a bunch of them. They did Scarface before. They're doing one with Top Gun, another movie coming out with Tom Cruise. You know, you saw the first one, it was great. So they do all of these things. Support them. It's a great company. So let's get into Godfather II. Now, I got to tell you this. There's a debate as to whether Godfather I was better than Godfather II or whatever. They're both brilliant movies and two of the best cinematic pieces made of all times. In the top 5, without a doubt. They're just, you know, brilliant in every which way. Cinematography was brilliant. The script, the story was brilliant. The acting was brilliant. Everybody in the film did great. The directing, I mean, you can't say anything bad about it. When you see a film that every scene, you're interested in every scene, there isn't any downtime. When you see a movie like that, and that's both Godfather I and Godfather II, II, you have to call it brilliant. And yes, of course, I'm attached to the material because it was my lifestyle at one point in time. Maybe I look at it differently than others. I always look at these movies for authenticity and the realism. And even though both of these movies, Godfather I and Godfather II, are fictional, the writers and the director, Coppola, they kind of try to make the characters after real-life characters. I mean, that's what they try to do. And so they've done that here. Now, what's my feeling on it? Which was a better movie, Godfather I or Godfather II? Very hard to say. I mean, I miss Marlon Brando in Godfather II because he was so brilliant in the first one. Jimmy Caan was terrific. He got killed off, as you know. But Godfather II, brilliance in its own right. Robert De Niro came in and he played the actor. He played Don Corleone, kind of the prequel to Godfather I, and showed how he got to America, how he rose in power. Very interesting story. And the way they combined the prequel of Godfather I through Robert De Niro and the continuing saga of Michael Corleone was brilliant. Because Michael Corleone now is the head of the family, and in Godfather II, it shows how he expanded his interests, how he protected the family, how his own personal life developed. So the way they meshed these both stories together, in my view, is brilliant. I don't know if we'll see anything like this ever again. There's been other great mob movies, obviously. We've spoken about so many of them. Goodfellas and Donnie Brasco and Bronx Tale and all the others that we know of. But these two kind of stand out, because even though they were fictional, they just stand out. And I said it when I reviewed Godfather I, I'll say it again. I remember distinctly in the early 70s when Godfather I first came out, guys in that life were carrying themselves a little bit differently as a result of the stature Godfather I gave people on the street. Guys in my lifestyle. It just gave them a whole new stature. People looked at the mafia like, wow, unbelievable. I got to tell you this, throughout my life, I've been compared to Michael Corleone. Why? Well, we both had fathers that brought us into the life. We both had fathers that were notorious. So I've been compared to him all my life. Now, I don't make that comparison, and I tell people, I joke all the time, well, Michael Corleone was fictional. I was the real thing. It's a joke. If I had to be compared to anybody, I wouldn't mind being compared to that character because Al Pacino just killed it. He played it so well. Just the way Michael handled himself in that movie was amazing. His transition, his transformation from college student and army guy to the boss of a major family was just magical the way he did it. He did a brilliant job. So I'm going to talk a little bit about now Godfather II. I'll name a couple of scenes that really stood out for me. All the characters stood out, but we'll get into a little bit of the storyline. I hope you enjoy it. Now, just about everybody watching, I'm assuming that you've seen Godfather II. However, let me say this. Some of my kids, my daughters, haven't seen even Godfather I, or no less Godfather II. And I'm saying, are you kidding me? I'm your father and you're never even curious enough to look at Godfather movies? Unbelievable. But I'm assuming that most of you here have watched it. And if you haven't, get some time, a couple of hours. It's longer than most movies that you see today, but it's well worth it. Get your popcorn, your drink of wine, whatever it is that you do, get on the couch and watch it. It's brilliant. And if you haven't seen one, watch one. Terrific. I don't advise that for Godfather III. To me, it fell off the cliff in a big way. I'm not saying it was a horrible movie, but it just did not live up to the standard of Godfathers I and II. And Coppola did not want to do Godfather III. He was really, the studio really egged him on and got him into it. He didn't want to do it, and you can tell. Anyway, let's get into the storyline here in Godfather II. It opens up with Don Corleone, Robert De Niro's character, but played as a young boy. And we see how he made his journey to the United States. His brother was killed, his mother was killed, his father was killed by the local gang leader in Sicily, the local mafia guy in Sicily, all because allegedly De Niro's father insulted the mafia guy and he killed him. The mother pleads for his life, De Niro's life, the young boy's life, after her other son gets killed. The mob boss says, no, that's not how it goes. Your kid may grow up one day, have a resentment towards me. It was prophetic, by the way. He said, so I got to kill all of you. He kills the wife. He goes after the son escapes, somehow manages to get on a boat and get to the United States. And this is where his story, the Corleone story, begins. And this is a Sicilian story. Don Corleone, he was Sicilian. We see he grows up in the neighborhood, and eventually he becomes a street guy, wise guy. He becomes prominent in the community, and there's a mafia guy there by the name of Don Fanucci, who speaks Italian, plays the role. He's the local guy. Unfortunately, which is very true, when the mob guys immigrated, or street guys immigrated from Italy here, what they did is they started to extort their own people, shop owners, people in the streets. They extorted them for money. And this Don Fanucci was a guy like that. Make a long story short, De Niro doesn't play that game. He's got his own little gang around him. Don Fanucci tries to recruit him, puts the muscle on him, the arm on him. De Niro eventually kills him. A great scene. Shoots him in the hallway of, I guess it was Fanucci's apartment. It was terrific. Takes him out. So Corleone becomes the guy, and you can see he's respected in the neighborhood. You see how he helps a widow who is being evicted out of her house. He talks to the shop owner. And you see him gaining this air of respect, just the way he carries himself. That was true of a lot of guys back then. In our neighborhoods, in Brooklyn, where I grew up, my dad was very well known there, very well respected, and other guys too in the neighborhood. And there was no crime in that neighborhood. You didn't commit crime. We didn't lock our doors at night. My sisters could walk home at 2 o'clock in the morning. They didn't have to worry about anything. As a matter of fact, if somebody, another guy in the neighborhood saw them walking, they'd walk them home. So in our own communities, later on, not in the early times, but later on, we protected people in the community, and that's what Don Corleone showed himself to be. He didn't prey off of people. He protected them. And at the same time, you know, the story kind of unfolds with Michael. He's now the boss of the family. And by the way, some of the untruths of The Godfather. When Don Corleone retired from the life in Godfather I, Vito, your son doesn't automatically take over. It's possible, but it's not automatic, because when you become boss, you got to have the consensus among the men that they want you to be the boss. You don't just say, I'm appointing my son and that's it. It doesn't happen that way. It can, but it doesn't. I know some people say, well, in the case of John Gotti, John Jr. took over. He was the acting boss for a while. When Joe Colombo passed off, Persico took over as the boss. He had 2 sons that were straightened out at the time, Anthony Colombo and Joey Jr. They didn't take over. So it is a process, and it's really a consensus among the men, and even the other families in our current system. The other families get involved, and they say yes or no, or they support or they don't. So there's more involved in it. You don't automatically take over, but for purposes of The Godfather, Michael becomes the boss. You saw the job that he did. You saw the people that he eliminated in Godfather I kind of solidified his position as boss of the family. When Godfather II, if you remember in one, he told his wife at the time, or was going to be his wife, Kay, that eventually the Corleone family was going to be totally legitimate. They moved their interests out to Vegas. They want to buy a couple of casinos. You remember in Godfather I, Mo Green, who was the Bugsy Siegel, allegedly patterned after Bugsy Siegel, how he resisted Michael's attempts to purchase his community. At the end, in the baptism scene, Mo Green gets killed. Michael orchestrates it. And now we get into Godfather II, where Michael is now trying to solidify his interests in Las Vegas. Another great character that's introduced there is Hyman Roth. We see the Hyman Roth character, who is allegedly patterned after Meyer Lansky. And Lee Strasberg, as you know, very famous, brilliant actor. He has the Lee Strasberg School of Acting, and so many actors today have come up through that school. He was brilliant as Hyman Roth. There's a scene there when they're all in Cuba before the revolution. And Hyman Roth is establishing casino ownership among all of the families in Cuba. He's telling everybody at his birthday party that this is going to be a great partnership with the Cuban government, and Michael Corleone is going to be involved, because before Vito Corleone passed away, Hyman Roth gave him his word that all of his interests in Cuba would go to the Corleone family. So Michael is going to be an investor in one of the hotels with Hyman Roth. It's a great scene, and this was before the revolution. Now, as this plays out, just to get into the storyline a little bit, Michael is kind of hesitant of making this investment because he sees some unrest in the streets while they're in Cuba. It actually takes place in Cuba. He sees some unrest in the street, and he's worried about the stability of the government. So he's kind of not knowing whether he's going to make this investment or not in these hotel casinos. Another scene with Hyman Roth that I thought was brilliant, where Hyman is telling Michael Corleone, who stands there, doesn't say a word, straight face, stone face, just listens, keeps his cool. And Hyman Roth is basically telling him, look, this is business, and for the first time starts to tell Michael about something that bothered him tremendously, and that was the killing of Mo Green. And he tells Michael, when Mo Green got killed, who he was very close to, he says, I love Mo Green. He says, when he got killed, I didn't ask, I didn't inquire, I knew it was the business that we chose, but you knew that he was sending a message to Michael Corleone, that he knew Michael orchestrated the killing, and he was very upset by it. But however, he said, hey, this is the business, it's the life that we chose. Brilliant scene, brilliantly acted, and he says to Michael on his way out of the room, look, you're gonna invest $2 million. You got it in your hotel room. I'm going for a nap. When I wake up, if the $2 million is here, I have a partner. If it's not here, I don't have a partner. And he leaves off. Just a brilliant scene, one of the scenes that I loved. It turns out there is a revolution in Cuba. As we know, Castro takes over. That was the end of the mob's involvement in any of the casinos. They all have to run for their lives. There is a scene where everybody's scattering. Hyman Roth gets out. Michael gets out. His brother Fredo gets out. Another interesting story. We find out that in reality, Hyman Roth is a big enemy of Michael. He tries to orchestrate the assassination of Michael Corleone. Another scene, in his house. You know, at night, men come in, they machine gun the house, Michael hits the deck, none of his family got hurt, but Michael's very troubled by it. He finds out that Hyman Roth had orchestrated this. And he finds out later on that Fredo was actually the one that betrayed him to Hyman Roth and helped Hyman set up this assassination attempt. This is the family aspect of The Godfather, something that I can relate to. Let me tell you something, people. Money, power, greed, it divides even the best of families at times. The mob life, money, power, greed, was in many ways the ruination of that life. In many ways, money, power, and greed is the ruination of not only family lives, but civilizations, governments. Money, power, and greed. They're just powerful aphrodisiacs. They separate families. They prove at times that blood is not thicker than water, certainly not thicker than money at times and power. That's what we see in Godfather II. Fredo appears to be envious of Michael, was upset when Michael was disrespectful to Mo Green, probably upset when Mo Green got killed, and he betrays Michael. Now, Michael knows this. He learns about it in Cuba. Fredo is not very bright. He screws up, and he reveals unknowingly that he was the one that helped betray Michael to Hyman Roth and helped set up his assassination. Michael, at that point, being the mob guy that he said it probably to himself, I'm not going to accept this betrayal, but while my mother is alive, I'm going to make sure that Fredo is good. I'm not going to hurt my mother. She went through enough pain, Sonny being killed and Vito going down. I'm not going to hurt my mom. So he protects Fredo while his mom was alive, which says something about him. Another scene is in Cuba. Michael lets Fredo know that he knows that he was betrayed by him. And he looks at Fredo. It's a powerful scene. And he kisses him on the lips, which, by the way, I've never seen. I've never seen that done. But he kisses him on the lips, and he said, you broke my heart. You broke my heart. And that's been played out many, many times. I've seen it in different situations. You broke my heart. But he does later, after the mom dies, he does set up Fredo to be killed, and eventually he takes his brother out. I don't know what to say about that. In my own life, my brother, most of you know, he betrayed my dad, went into the witness protection program. He talked about it. He said he had valid reasons to do that. He did testify against my dad. I love my brother. Could I have ever taken my brother out if I remained in that life? No, I couldn't have done it. I mean, I understood what my brother grew up in. I don't validate what he did. I don't think it's an excuse for what he did. He says he has reasons. I don't agree with it. But I love my brother. We do things. He may not agree with what I did in my life, you know, by walking away. Who knows? Maybe he does. And the story goes that my father did put a hit out on my brother. And, you know, they have a tape recording of that. The FBI told me that my father went along with a contract on my life when I walked away from that life. Would he have ever pulled the trigger? I don't think so. I really don't. But the fact that he went along with it, even with my brother, is that heartbreaking? Yeah, it was. But, you know, again, I understood. I knew my father's mentality, and it is what it is. And I loved my father up until he passed away. I love him now. But that's one of the horrors of that life. It separates families at times, pits families against one another. And I've seen that more than once. I told you the story about another Maid guy, another Colombo guy, two brothers that had to take their father out because their father violated the rules with another made guy's wife or daughter. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they took their own father. I mean, is there ever justification for that? I don't think so. In that lifestyle, yes, there is. But in life in general, is there? I don't think so. But anyway, that's a chilling part of the storyline, I would say. Another great scene, there's a guy by the name of Pentageli, they call him. He turned informant. He was one of Michael Corleone's guys. He was disenchanted with Michael because he believed that Michael didn't protect him against another mob guy who was part of Hyman Roth's crew. There was an attempted assassination on Pentageli's life that he believed came from Michael Corleone. So what does he do? He feels like he's boxed into a corner and he becomes a government informant. He's testifying against Michael. There's a great scene when he's going to testify against Michael in court. And what happens? Michael sends for his brother, Pentageli's brother, who is a Sicilian, brings him in from Italy and has him in the courtroom. Well, Pentageli takes one look at his brother and all of a sudden he loses his memory. He doesn't know what happened and he doesn't testify. The government is outraged and it's a whole thing, and it's Michael sitting there very stoic and I got you, you know. Another scene after that is Robert Duvall, the consigliere, goes to Pentageli and he says, look, the old Roman way, when you do something like this and you betray, the way to bring honor back to your family and yourself, you take your own life. He says, if you do that, don't worry about your family. It's going to be taken care of. And so Pentageli, while he's in protective custody, slits his wrist and kills himself. And that's the end of that story. Michael wins again. There's also the story between Michael and his wife, Kay, where she now really realizes what Michael is involved in. She doesn't like it. There's a scene, you know, there's some friction between Michael and his wife because she starts to realize, Kay does, what Michael's really all about. They were having a baby and Michael finds out that she miscarried. It was a miscarriage. And there is a scene when Michael and Kay together and they're not happy with one another. Kay is kind of telling Michael that, listen, I don't like your lifestyle, and they're going at it, they're going back and forth. And Michael says, listen, you're upset, you had this miscarriage. And Kay says, miscarriage? Is that what you really believe it is? It wasn't a miscarriage, Michael. It was an abortion. I aborted the baby because I don't want to bring another baby, another person into your life, your evil life. Basically, that's what she says. Michael is listening, and you see the emotion, you see the anger penting up. He dives across the room, smacks her hard, and at that point in time, he kind of excommunicates her from the family. He takes the kids, which when modern day it wouldn't really happen unless Kay was so scared of him that she wouldn't resist, but he takes the kids and she doesn't belong in his life anymore. That's it, she's over. You aborted my baby, that's it, done. So again, destructive to a marriage, yes. You know, I've seen in many ways, again in my own home, where the mob life is not conducive to a good family life. It's just not. So we tell that story there too. As we move on, Michael does come out on top. He does, as always, uses his shrewdness, his calmness, what his father taught him to really come out on top, and he establishes himself as the true boss of that family. Just the way he does it. I mean, it's brilliant. Got to watch the movie. And I named some scenes that I thought were really terrific, but really, it's the whole movie. From start to finish, you're engrossed the whole time. Brilliant movie, and I certainly recommend that you watch it. There is something that Paramount has put together. It's called the Godfather Trilogy, where they actually put all three Godfathers together. It's about a 6-hour deal. I got through it, I watched it, and I enjoyed it. So if you have time, if you want to take an hour or two at a time, you could sit down and watch it, the Godfather Trilogy. But I do recommend you watch Godfather 1, then Godfather 2. Brilliant movies, you won't be disappointed, that much I can tell you. So, I think that's it for today. You know, go and watch the movie, you're going to love it. And let me leave you with this. We're just approaching 500,000 subscribers. Well less than a year. We only started this channel in July, and it's thanks to all of you people for being so loyal, for liking the content that we're putting on there. It's very humbling to me, and I really appreciate it because you have thousands of choices on YouTube, and the fact that you turn in to listen to me, really appreciate it. So, big giveaway coming up at 500,000. We're going to announce it soon. First prize winner is going to love it, I guarantee it. It's something very special. We gave away a computer the last time, a laptop. This is going to be even more special, a lot more prizes. Kurt, my associate, my partner, he'll be telling you what's involved. Doesn't cost you anything, but there's some things that we want you to do, you know, just to create some excitement and establish yourself as the winner. So keep watching. We're going to be announcing it soon. MichaelFranzese.com. Our community is growing well over 14,000. My inner circle is really growing because we're putting a lot lot more into it. I really encourage you to get involved. You know, after this pandemic, to have people encouraging one another, to have input from me, something I've been doing for 25 years, giving you material that's going to encourage you, going to helping you with your life, helping you with your business. It's something that, you know, I'm proud of at this point because so many people are getting so much out of it. So we encourage you, michaelfranzese.com. It's well worth your time. It's well worth it for you to become a crew member. I promise you that. Oh, by the way, we got some great things coming up. Got an interview with Sean Atwood coming up. You don't know who he was? Ecstasy King. Him and Sammy Gravano have some interesting stories together, but that's coming up. We got Joe Engel coming up. He was Mike Tyson's sparring partner, and Mike named him, remember this, the baddest white man on the planet. For Mike to say that, you know, Joe Engel had to be something. So anyway, we got good stuff coming up. So that's it. So how do I leave you? Always the same way. Be safe, be healthy, God bless you all, and I mean that, and I will see you next time.